Crystal, thank you. And I spoke to Senator Payman's WA Labor colleague and friend, Josh Wilson, a short time ago. I started by asking him if he supports the Senator's indefinite suspension from the Labor caucus.
The path that Fatima has chosen brings consequences with it. You know, we all have the privilege of participating in caucus, bringing our views to that conversation, and then when the position's resolved, showing respect to our colleagues and respect to a fair and democratic process, and being part of that collective that's won so many things for Australian workers and disadvantaged Australians over the years. And Fatima has chosen a course where that's not how she wanted to participate in caucus, and therefore isn't participating in caucus. But she's welcome to come back and be part of it, and I wish she would, because she's a friend and been a valued colleague.
So once she's suspended, she said she feels cut off or exiled. She has been cut off from official caucus communication, which, from my understanding, that has to happen once you're suspended. Does that mean she's exiled, or is she misconstruing what's happened there?
Well, Fatima is obviously free to characterise her feelings or her circumstances as she sees fit. You know, I've spent time with her in recent weeks, so I'm certainly happy to be in contact with her, and I know lots of other people have, including the Prime Minister. So I don't know, I mean, she's not a member of caucus, she's not participating in caucus at the moment.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't use that word myself to describe those circumstances.
You don't believe she's exiled per se?
Well, the Prime Minister has said on every occasion that she's welcome to be a member of the Labor caucus.
Okay.
Well, she has been for almost the majority of her time in the Senate.
She says the actions have led her to believe that some members are attempting to intimidate me into resigning from the Senate. Have you spoken to her about that?
I haven't spoken to her about that, and again, it's a bit hard for me to offer an interpretation of Fatima's
And just
view.
to clarify, you've sought to, you've called her or texted her, and she hasn't responded since this happened?
Well, you know, probably as with all of my relations with people, there are aspects of it that will be between me and Fatima, as it would be between me and anyone.
But have you had a conversation since you crossed the floor?
I haven't had a conversation with her since she crossed the floor.
Okay. And you sought to?
Well, I've been in touch with Fatima to offer support to Fatima since that time. But yeah, I guess that's between me and Fatima.
What would your public message be to her if she's watching?
Well, I don't think that's how I would communicate with her or with anyone else. But my view is that she's a friend and a valued colleague. She's made an important contribution as a member of the Western Australian Labor Senate team. It's fantastic that we are starting to see the Australian Parliament better represent the multicultural diversity and strength of Australia. She has a really valuable perspective to bring. I wish that she would bring it to the Labor caucus as the way in which she brings it to the Australian Parliament, and I think she would have a significant contribution to make over a considerable period of time on that basis.
And there has been some discussion on that. You are clearly in this, since 2022, it's a more diverse party, quite obviously. Does that come with it perhaps a need for rules that are a bit more relaxed, a bit less rigid? Otherwise this is going to keep happening with other members?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it goes to how people characterise what's occurred. I mean, essentially, any group, whether it's a workplace or a sports team or a political organisation, can't exist on the basis that everyone participates with the sort of the freedom to do anything and everything that they want at any time. On that basis, it's not a group. It's not a group.
Right, but I mean, the Liberals and Nationals can cross the floor. Is it time for Labor to discuss whether you need that freedom, albeit it doesn't happen very often still on that side, but so that every time it happens, this is not the level of conversation, I guess?
Well, I think in this case it's better just to look at the circumstances. I mean, Fatima has chosen a course of action where she doesn't want to sort of participate in the caucus in the way that we all participate, which is you put your view, you make your argument, you be part of that discussion. It's a privilege to be part of that discussion, and there'll be times when your particular point of view wins the day, and there'll be times when your particular point of view isn't what wins the day.
Live sheep export,
yes.
So it's going to be phased out. Industry is saying farmers will just walk away, some of them will have to. What's your response to them?
Well, there's never been any evidence of the need for that to occur. I mean, when you talk about a trade that's declined by more than 90%, when it declined by 75% just in the decade between 2012 and 2022 alone, at that time the WA sheep flock stayed steady as a rock at 13.5 million sheep. Wool output was exactly the same. I mean, there's been a massive shift from the live sheep export trade to children frozen processed meat exports. One's gone down by more than 90%, the other's gone up by more than 400%.
So is the industry making this up? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
Is the industry making up this claim?
No, I just said that there's no reason for that to be the case, and there's never been any evidence of that being the case in the past, even though the industry's declined by 90%. So if somebody was to say about any industry, look, there are going to be job losses, there are going to be business closures, there's going to be all of these consequences if the industry is affected. If that industry actually declined, or a part of the industry, because really we're just talking about the method by which sheep meat is exported, that's declined by 90%, and none of those things have come true.
Good to have your company on Politics Now, just gone 4 p.m. Australia.